What's the worst thing you've stepped on with bare feet? A nail, clean through my foot. An X-Acto knife that had fallen off my paint table and somehow landed point side up. For me to step on. Right in between the toes while I was mid-argument on the phone with the bank. I screamed. A frog. In the dark. I felt so bad. A jellyfish. Fuck people saying Lego. Step in a sea urchin once. Compared to that, stepping in Lego is like walking on pillows. Edit. Since people seem interested, I stepped in one as a kid. Some spines lodged into my foot, and broke off immediately, leaving me with a foot full of barbed spikes. One needle went completely through my little toe. They immediately caused an inflammation of my foot which hurts like hell. Before I got the needles removed, it felt like they kept wriggling around in my foot somehow. Rotary cutter for fabric. Like a pizza slicer but super precise and way sharper. Sliced right in the middle of the bottom of my right foot. Had to go to the Got 17 stitches and cannot feel my big toe anymore. Human shit. Hopped out of the pool at a resort in the US. Headed over to the chair to towel off and had to veer around another couple and a couple sets of chairs. I slipped in something and nearly ate it in front of dozens of people. Once I was stable, I looked down and saw a brown pool behind the smear my foot left in it. There was more in the chair. Someone had shat themselves in the beach chair and waddled away, leaking soft serve all over the pool deck. Cat's corpse. A huge lizard my cat brought inside, still alive. It clamped onto my pinky toe. I did not remain composed. A curved piece of glass, probably from a beer bottle. It happened when I was 12 and you can still see the scar. A bee and getting stung, or a pile of fire ants. A nail sticking out of my doorframe. Skinned the side of my foot. My time to shine. My mum's dog used to have pretty bad IBS, so accidents around the house weren't that uncommon. One day she had eaten a slug and passed it out the other end. Think of a slug perfectly encased in diarrhea. I stepped right in it. In bare feet. Dog shit and slug straight in between my toes like the worst kind of jelly. God, even thinking about it makes me want to heave. As I started hopping around the room violently gagging and begging my sister to help me, the whole thing was dangling off my foot. My attack, a whole wine glass, a barnacle. As a kid I used to run around barefoot a lot. I was running around a plum tree and stepped on an old plum. Guess there was a wasp in there because it stung me right underneath my big toenail. That one had me crying for a bit and I started wearing shoes soon after. Hot pavement that has been baking in the sun for hours. So technically I wasn't barefoot, but bear with me because it's pretty bad. In Hawaii there are these things called kiave thorns, and they are goddamn brutal. Seriously, look them up. They get up to like 6 inches long, and the way they grow on the branches, there's always one sticking up when they are on the ground. Now, I was wearing inch-thick slippers, flip-flops for my howlies out there, so this thorn had to be at least 2.5 inches, because when I stepped on it, it went inside my foot and snapped off. I went to a doctor, and after digging around in my foot for a while, he determined that there was nothing more in there. He said give it time to heal, deep wounds take a while. Well, just a few days later, I was at one of those youth conferences where you walk around a lot. When I got home, my entire sock was soaked in blood, and the hole had reopened. My mom got some tweezers and pulled out an inch-long piece of thorn that had been in there the whole time. It was the greatest relief I have felt. Dog shit as bad as people have said, but a dog's tail is far worse. That little yelp breaks my heart, and then they come to you ears down wondering what they did wrong. Loudly crying, I am sorry, stop looking at me like that. A live mouse my cat had brought into the house. A broken dish piece in a closet when a shard evaded the clean-up dad. My mom had a sewing needle through her pinky toe. The absolute beast that my mom is just took it out and continued lecturing me and my ex-sister. Was in a filthy motel in a bad area. Hotels.com listed it as a 4-star facility. By far, the most disgusting place I've ever slept. After I showered, I stepped on the floor and it was both slimy and sticky. It honestly could have been any number of bodily fluids they failed to mop up. A friend of mine stepped on a stingray and that fucker put its stinger right through his big toe. He had to go to the still attached to the stingray. A partially decomposed deer carcass. I was barefoot and it cut open my foot. Some weird caterpillar many years ago it stung so bad. Jagged seashell. Straight through the ground into a fire ant colony. A scorpion. Was getting water in the middle of the night. It stung me, but I smushed it with my foot so we're even. My other foot. Somehow I got a glass shard on the top of my foot, but at that moment it just kind of felt itchy and warm, so I ran my other foot across it to itch it and gashed the bottom of my one foot and pushed the shard of glass even further in. Once I stepped on my baby bro's shit on the floor. A glowing hot skewer when we were roasting hot dogs. A big fat hairy spider. I stepped on a 1/4 bolt sticking up from a cement floor. It was on my heel and supported me until I realized what I was stepping on, then pop. A wasp's nest which I thought it was empty but it wasn't. The flat head of a nail, rips going in and coming out. Did it while running so both in and out in one motion. A dead bee. Like really, I actually got stung by walking on a dead bee. Lego a plug. Crab or some other pinchy animal in the ocean. It was terrifying. A used condom in a park, with bare feet. Stepped right on the squish. Nope. A broken Coca-Cola glass bottle. I believe it was the bottom part. I was 4 years old. The floor of a water park bathroom or changing room. So, wet, and cold and slimy. Ant pile. So many little bites. A still-lit cigarette and dog shit. One was at the beach and one was in a house with an old, incontinent dog with bad owners. A rattlesnake. I'm pretty sure I would have made the Olympic team with my sprint thereafter. Knitting needle. Was using it as a throwing knife and sticking it in the ground. Barefoot. Threw it and couldn't find it in the grass. Found it with the arch of my foot. I was about 9, if that explains anything. A shark jaw. My dad had a collection of shells, sand dollars, etc., and one of the items was an intact shark jaw with all the rows of teeth that he'd found snorkeling. My little sister pulled it down to look at it and didn't put it back, and when I came skipping into the room, well, let's say I remember it 25 years later. Absolutely tore my foot to shreds and I was limping around with a massive bandage for days. But second to that is goddamn Legos. Carpet nail strip on some stairs. A human turd in a pool. A weaverfish. Left my rain boots outside overnight cuz they were dirty. I was like 6 and wanted to check on our pond in the morning, so I put on the boots barefoot and they were filled with gross slimy snails that I ended up squishing into my boot, and let me tell you, to this day I still check my shoes before putting them on. A toothpick. Hurts just remembering it. Really hot shard of metal. A bamboo skewer. Didn't go all the way through, but it tinted the skin on the top of my foot. A very hot curling iron. I've answered a similar thread before. A fishing lure in the shallows of a beach. I had to hobble out of the water and through the sand before I could get to a place where I could get it out. Nails and a block of wood attached. It tugged the nail and ripped my foot rather hard. I stepped on a large snail once, then slipped and fell into it. I'll never forget the crunch and squish before I went down. Stood on an upturned drawing pin, thumb tack. It embedded right into the bone and it took about 10 minutes to extract it. 0 tenths would not recommend. Sewing needle. And I didn't land on the sharp side. The loop end went through my foot. A chunk of glass. It wasn't necessarily the initial stepping that was the bad part. I didn't get all of it out and there was a piece in my foot for around a month and the skin healed around it, so I had to go digging. A burning charcoal briquette. I was grilling a seafood feast for a family beach gathering. I was also drinking all day. I pulled some foil packets out of the coals and dropped one briquette into the sand. Both hands were full of things going into the house, so I thought, remember to get that when you come back. Less than narrator greater than he did not remember. Less than narrator greater than. Cliché, but Legos are truly awful to step on. A thumbtack, pointy side up. A rusty nail. Dead baby bird, it crunched. A landmine, luckily it was an fake one. Broken glass shards that got stuck in my foot. Cat, dog tails or paws. Legos, that fucking embroidery needle. A banana slug. I was playing in the rain once and I jumped in a deep puddle and caught a huge piece of glass right in my big toe. A yellow jacket nest. I was doing my homework on the floor when I was in elementary school. I left the room for something and then came back and stepped on a mechanical pencil. It hurt, but it wasn't a big deal at the time. Went to school the next day and my foot was aching really bad. I went to the nurse and she took off my shoe and sock and found a piece of pencil lead about 2 inches long embedded in the skin on the bottom of my foot. A bee. Stung me on the bottom of the foot. That sucked. A bumblebee. Shards of glass. Once I stepped in dog puke while I had a VR headset on and it was one of the most confusing moments of my life. I stepped on a bee when I was like 5 and the stinger went up in my foot and so we had to dig it out with a needle. It was a big bruh. My dad had to do work on our house. A bucket of pins fell. All you heard was me on the ground with a metal-covered foot. A wasp's nest. A plug. If you don't know what UK plugs look like, prongs up, Google it. Yeah, ouch. Thanks for watching. See you later.